they actually gained some yards.
I'm an
And
so.
okay, thanks, Coach. Let's go. I think I sounded a little too Seinfeld right now. Okay, Coach. Yeah. No pick. No. What's the deal with Dan Campbell? Good. We'll get to that in a second. Cam Newton, 8 of 9, 103 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions in 3 series. Mac Jones, 13 of 19, 146 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions in 4 series. Patriots, very impressive in their fake game with Philadelphia. June Lee, around the horn to you. Take away from Exhibition 2 and QB1 competition here.
I think there's 2 big takeaways here. Number 1, I think Cam Newton has pretty much locked up that starting job for week 1.
Okay.
But the second takeaway is that Mac Jones is starting to kind of chip away at that safety net that Cam had there. I think the second that Cam Newton starts to struggle, there's going to be a big wave of momentum for Mac Jones to take over. And I think the Patriots have learned that they have really 2 solid quarterbacking options. If you looked at Pro Football Focus's grades for quarterbacks, my friend Doug Takaya tweeted out that Mac Jones is the second-ranked quarterback in Pro Football Focus's grades so far in the preseason, and Cam Newton is number 6. The Patriots are at a really solid position right now, where I think the X factor about how the season goes is what they're going to get out of that quarterback position.
I'm going to go to Woody Page here because as long as I've known Woody, he hasn't really gone to preseason stats from Pro Football Focus often. But go ahead, Woody. Do you have a takeaway from what you're seeing and all those great stats June just gave us?
Well, I did say a week ago that I thought that Jones had a chance to overtake Cam. That's not happening. He has proven that he deserves to be. But someone in Boston, a journalist, wrote that this was his best game since he's joined the Patriots. He played 3 series. Give me a break against second and third stringers. And I'm not ready to crown him, as was once said in the National Football League by a coach. But I think that we have seen that Jones is a quality quarterback. A lot of teams, as I did note a week ago, are saying, maybe we made a mistake. That 91-yard drive, there's my stat, to begin the second quarter was fantastic. They scored on a run, but he was proving that he has a maturity to play in this game. But Cam Newton, if he struggles at all, I think they'll feel very comfortable about putting Jones in the lineup. It's not going to be Tom Brady-like, I think, but there's a possibility that he'll be in line a year from now to be the starting quarterback.
Adonde, your takeaway.
Well, here's the thing, Woody. Remember, in Tom Brady's breakthrough season with the Patriots, he got hurt in the AFC Championship, and Drew Bledsoe had to come back in and get them to the Super Bowl. So what that informs us is that if Mac Jones takes over and something were to happen to him, then you're in good shape if you have to go back to Cam Newton. But I think as things stand right now, Cam Newton is still the starter. I think Bill Belichick would feel a little better going into the season with the more experienced quarterback. If he has to go to Mac Jones, he's showing he can do it. And if Mac Jones becomes a starter, you're in good shape if he gets hurt.
And Monica McNutt.
I mean, the Patriots opted to take Mac Jones high in the draft because they could see the future, but I don't understand why everybody is out on Cam. This is going to be Cam's job to lose. The thing that Cam and Mac have in common, this is their first preseason as Patriots. Cam didn't have a preseason either, and let's not forget the Patriots had a league high of opt-out due to COVID protocols. Listen, if Cam fumbles the bag, then fine, Mac is up, but this is Cam's job.
Okay. Cam also had COVID last season as well and was recovering from that. But let's look at the schedule, Woody Page. It's week 4. It's against Tampa. It's against Tom Brady. I mean, you would love to write that column, wouldn't you? Are you starting Mac Jones by that point against Tom Brady? Or maybe because the stars are aligned in such a way you don't want to give that to Mac Jones? What do you think on that?
Oh, I'd love to see Mac Jones play against Tom Brady. I think it would make sense. You think Belichick would really want to do that? No, that's another reason why Cam Newton is going to be in the lineup by the fourth game.
Monica, I think you're taking that as a victory in this argument.
Exactly. I mean, Mac Jones would be completely overwhelmed by the opportunity to go up against Tom Brady. Cam is going to be there, and he's going to be prepared to get it done.
In this game, Jalen Hurts didn't play. He has a stomach infection. He's actually in the hospital. But that Jalen Hurts didn't play in the game, and that the Eagles and Joe Flacco scored 0 squadouche and lost this very fake game 35-0, J.A. You think that actually solidifies Hurts as QB1 for Philadelphia?
No, and I've never been one of those guys that you prove an MVP case by saying, where would they be without him? Because by that nature, then Kevin Durant would have been the finals MVP against Toronto because they lost to the Raptors without him. So, no, what can you do with him? And we still haven't seen, and I don't think the Eagles have seen to their satisfaction what they can do. And to the point Monica raised earlier, last year, the Patriots had the most opt-outs of anyone, particularly on defense. Now guys like Dante Hightower are back, and they spent prolifically on free agents, particularly on the defensive side. So they've upgraded on that side. And I think you saw that come into play more so than anything out of the Eagles quarterback position.
Monica, Hurts doesn't play. The Eagles offense doesn't move. Does that mean Hurts should be QB1 in Philly?
In my world, it does, Tony. In fact, as I was watching that game, I'm like, did they say Joe Flacco? Like, Joe Flacco? Joe Flacco is still doing his thing? I mean, this was an awful offensive performance for the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, I think back to last year and the flashes that Jalen Hurts said. Now, is he going to be a world beater? I'm not sure. But he definitely, to me, is better than what we saw last night. So, yes.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that Jalen Hurts should be a starting quarterback here. His competition right now for me feels like guys coming outside of the organization. If the Eagles wanted to trade for Nick Foles or if they wanted to trade for Deshaun Watson, I'm just disappointed that we're not having the discussion about whether or not Joe Flacco is elite for the 100th time.
Okay,
but I mean,
June, I know it's just your 13th
What happens
show,
when you use that word?
There's a word you keep on going to that is just nothing to do with your life. Woody Page, the Eagles offense went backwards last night. And Jalen Hurts didn't play. Does that mean they need Jalen Hurts and he's QB1?
Yeah, my bowels moved better than the Eagles did last night.
Okay.
We had that to the fan words list. Yeah.
It's Friday.
Jay, you're a longtime friend of mine, but you said he didn't solidify the situation last night by being the starter. If he stays away another 3 weeks, he probably will be in the Pro Bowl. He didn't want to be in that lineup with that team they put out there last night. I hope there's a deep drop-off between their first stringers that didn't play and the guys we saw last night. But Flacco proved, and then Nick Mullins came in. How'd he do? He got sacked like 3 times in about 1 minute. No, Jalen Hurts is their only opportunity this year. He's going to get every chance to prove that he can play quarterback in the NFL. They got no other opportunity. I saw Flacco washed up in Denver 3 years ago, Monica, like you were talking about.
All right, thank you, Woody. But
What? What are you doing?
one more story here. Joe Burrow, 9 months removed from the ACL, MCL tear, the PCL meniscus damage he had, and the surgery he had. And Burrow's telling people he wants to play in the preseason for the Bengals. Cincinnati, they're not playing him tonight. But Burrow's making the case he could play next week, Woody. Should the Bengals hear him out and let Burrow play in this very big preseason?
No, and I'm going to tell you why. He was injured in the 10th game last year. They should have shut him down before that. They knew what they had in Joe Burrow. You wanted to protect him. He's coming back from a very difficult ACL surgery. That in the past has normally taken a full year. So he's 2 months ahead of time, and we know that guys are coming back sooner from ACLs, but there's no chance that it makes any sense that he would play in the preseason. A couple of weeks ago, if you were paying attention, Joe Burrow said he was still on the practice field thinking about the brace on his leg, thinking about getting hit. So you don't want to risk him at any point now. And the Bengals are smart enough to know that because they don't want to have him out for another 6 months.
Yeah, Donde?
Woody, I would argue that all makes the case for him playing so that he will get used to it, so that he will shed those inhibitions and feel more comfortable out there playing, get used to being in the pocket again, see something that approximates NFL game speed. You're right, he only played 10 games last year, hasn't played in a real game since November 22nd of last year. So normally I'm saying stay away, I'm anti, unnecessary reps, but in this case, if it will help him feel more comfortable, that will actually make him safer when the real games come along.
Monica, where do you come down on this?
This morning, I was completely agreeing with Woody. I was like, no way, you got to protect him. You want him to stay on the field. But the more I think about it, if technically Miami probably won't be playing their starters by the end, can we get a couple of series just to help
so now you disagree with Woody. Okay, there you go, Woody. You lose your point there. Agree with the Donde. So the point goes here.
For disagree.
Well, I mean, the question is, they had the worst offensive line anyone's basically ever seen last year, Monica. So do they believe in their offensive line enough, and the offensive line they'll be playing in preseason game number 3, which you could also assume is not their starters, to defend Burrow in his first game back?
Yeah, I mean, listen, not drafting Penei Sewell was still a head scratcher for me. I think Jamar Chase will be excellent, but we know what they needed in terms of protecting the future of the franchise and Joe Burrow. There's not really a right answer here. Do you allow him to play against hopefully third-string guys that may or may not make the roster, or do you throw him in live action where guys could care less about your health? They're trying to make plays. I don't know.
June Lee, you have a thought on this?
Yeah, I think you have to find a little bit of a middle ground here. You're getting exactly what you want out of a young quarterback and wanting to be in there, especially having missed so much time from that injury. But as the team, you have to look out for that long-term future as well and try to balance those two things. So I think Burrow probably should get a little bit of playing time so he eases back into playing. But I also don't think that they should be going all out and just kind of letting him, throw himself back out there on the football field.
McNutt 13, Adonde 9, Page 6, Lee 8. Wait a second. Monica, we haven't seen you in a few weeks. Where have you been? Oh, that's right. Calling the freaking Olympics. Calling the Olympics. That is an Olympic
company, I would say, in this disrespected group.
Monica, do you believe LeBron's been disrespected here? Do you see him going to the washed king again as a motivator for himself, or as a way to poke other people?
I definitely think he's going to be motivated by this because these high caliber guys find the smallest thing to motivate them. But I also think it's important to remember, you had 10 guys asked to pick one name, not 10 guys who did it draft style. He's still a top 10 guy in the league.
Okay, but if you're calling him a top 10 guy in the league, he's going to take that as disrespect. June Lee, how about you?
The fact that we're even entertaining this conversation when LeBron James is 37 years old speaks to just how amazingly great LeBron James is. I mean, this is something that I think is expected when you have someone as generationally great as LeBron James to take every small piece of criticism of him not being the best player in the world and trying to use it as motivation to make sure that people recognize that he's still one of the 3 to 4 best players in the NBA.
He is 36, all right? Doesn't turn 37 until December. But I thought you were going a different way there. The fact that we're even talking about this. I mean, how is LeBron even hearing this? This was a Tim Bontemps survey of 10 scouts and a survey? Oh, come on now. We're all getting muted for this. We're moving on. Buy or sell to roll tape.
No, there's no way to sugarcoat that, I'm an so that's about the best way to put it.
Of all the things Lions coach Dan Campbell has said this year, that's another one of them. This was him calling himself that and taking the heat for cutting Don Muehlbach. J.A., does Dan Campbell have this right? And by that I mean this much talk and bluster as a rookie coach. Buy or sell?
This much emotion when it comes to the business of the job, I just keep saying, who do you want to emulate? The most successful coach of our generation, maybe of all time, Bill Belichick. Do you think Bill Belichick's shedding any tears when he's kidding anybody? I don't think so.
Monica?
I find it refreshing and honest, but I just hope ultimately Dan Campbell's able to bring something to this Detroit squad because otherwise he'll just be known for being unusually emotive in football.
June Lee?
I buy this. I mean, it's all that's going to matter at the end of the day is whether or not the Lions win. But I do like in a sport that kind of pushes out a very rigid idea of masculinity that Campbell's willing to be this emotive about.
And Woody?
Oh, I agree. He showed an emotional side that we don't often see from coaches, especially about cutting players. But he reminds me of Mike Ditka. He's got that sort of forceful, open, honest sort of relationship with the media and with the public, and I like it.
Okay, we'll see if he coaches like Ditka, but that is an interesting comparison. Jay, you brought up Belichick and how he goes about his way. You have to admit, a lot of that's performative too, right? He's giving you even keel emotion, but he's doing it on purpose for performance and effect.
An example of a successful emotional coach, I'd say with Dick Vermeil, but I think football, you're better suited to being Belichickian.
Buy or sell, number 3, the number 1 pick in the NHL draft. He's returning to Michigan for his sophomore season. Buffalo Sabres will have to wait on Owen Power. June, you reading anything into that?
No, I'm not, because it's pretty common in college hockey, as someone who used to cover college hockey for the Cornell Daily Sun, was you get drafted and then you then go to college hockey.
What a great plug. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. I just am impressed that you thought of yourself. Go ahead, please.
No, I mean, it's not that unusual, and on top of all of that, Buffalo is kind of a mess right now. Jack Eichel's on the trading block. He wants out. It's a weird position for a kid that young to go in and then become the face of the franchise, especially as a defenseman.
Before we get to the rest of this topic, thumbs up or thumbs down on June dropping his credentials here at Cornell. Have heard of it. Okay, fine. All right, there you go. Woody, you've covered sports before, so go ahead.
Yeah, I can't match what he's been able to accomplish in life so far. But I will say this: I'm fine with him going back because of what the new rules are in NCAA.
Yeah,
he can make a lot of money this year, and also has a chance at the Frozen Four if indeed the other 4 guys who were drafted make the same decision and decide to go back.
That's right. Michigan had the top 2 picks this year. Adane, how about you?
I can relate to sometimes you're just not ready to leave, even for a great opportunity, like the time I turned down our producer Aaron Solomon's dad at the Washington Post because I wasn't quite ready to leave Chicago in 1993.
Wow. I mean, all right. You guys really
Never gotten over it.
frame yourselves in these stories incredibly well. Monica, please go ahead.
All right, well, as I believe the only former college athlete on this panel, I would also like to point out that in addition to not being ready to go, sometimes it's about your team and about the opportunity that you have. I also think to what Adam Silver has gone on record saying in terms of the disconnect in the age of guys coming into the league versus the pros that are already established. College is a one time in your life. You're surrounded by people in the same age range, and if he wants to soak it up a little longer and take the long route, I get it.
Oh, I love you guys on a Friday. Woody Page, J.A. Adande. Hey, I want to take a look at something, Julie. What are we working with right here? What's the shirt?
This is a Koreatown jersey. It's repping my guy Dumbfounded, one of the most famous.